I never knew my mother. My world has always been the sterile, white halls of this facility and my father, Bernard Moore. Though, in truth, I suppose I never really knew him either, especially after what happened shortly after I turned 16. That day, everything turned upside down, but it began like any other. I tidied my room, placing errant articles of white clothing in the laundry chute and straightening the books on my shelf. I wiped down the bathroom, paying special attention to the spot between the seat and the tank as well as the base of it where the bolts anchor it to the tiled floor. Previous experience has taught me to triple-check every nook and cranny of the bathroom. Daddy has a keen eye for spotting minuscule specks of dust or the tiniest stains, and his reaction to finding something amiss is remarkably painful. The odor of lemon-scented cleaner permeated the air. I made one last check to make sure I hadn't missed anything. Mostly satisfied, though still worried I'd missed something, I washed my hands and adjusted my hair in the mirror. Long, sharp horns curved out from the top of my head, glinting black and red in the stark white vanity light. I tucked a strand of wavy auburn hair behind my pointed ears and turned off the light, exiting the bathroom into my bedroom. I heard my bedroom door hiss open, and I stepped out to see the red-haired guard framed in the doorway. He waved a hello and took his usual seat at my desk. He spoke about his daughter and the birthday party he'd just thrown for her with his ex-wife. He described the silly cartoon characters on the cake and all the presents everyone brought. There were lots of little kids running around, playing as if their lives depended on it. A smile remained on his face as he gazed into the distance, his thoughts lingering on the party before shifting to how he gave her a new bike. When the bright, white lights turned red and the shriek of the alarm sounded, his look of quiet love and reminiscence turned into one of panic. He shot me an apologetic look, slung his rifle over his shoulder, and bolted out the door. In the distance, I heard shouts of alarm over the alarm and the heavy thuds of anxious footsteps in the hall. Remembering directions my father had given me when I was younger, I scrambled to the bathroom and barred the door shut with the plunger, then wedged myself between the toilet and the wall. The clamor of voices and boots continued outside, muffled by the walls. After a minute, I heard a knock on the bathroom door followed by a feminine voice. "Come on out. Things will go way easier if you cooperate." My breathing became irregular and my chest felt tight. If the situation was safe, one of the guards or even Daddy would have said the code word to let me know it was them. Whoever this was, they managed to get past the guards and the security checkpoints. I struggled to control my breathing, so I counted down from 5 like Daddy taught me. "Last call, demon." "I don't have all night," the stranger said. Demon? What did she mean by calling me a demon? Why would she be calling me that? "All right then, fine," the stranger said moments before I heard a solid thud. The door flew open. The wooden plunger handle splintered across the tiled floor. In front of me stood a short, young woman dressed in all black, holding a sharp, curved knife. Her expression displayed a mixture of boredom and mild disgust, an odd combination, to be sure. She flicked her eyes from my horns to my ears, then focused onto my face. She noticed me huddled in the fetal position, and her expression turned into one of confusion, as if she had expected something different. "Aren't you gonna fight?" she asked, tilting her head. My breaths came in hitching huffs as I shook my head no. "Why not?" Her eyes looked almost conflicted as she said this. "Get up and face me, goddammit. Ain't no way it's supposed to be this easy." I remained in a terrified silence, paralyzed with fear. In a heartbeat, she crossed the room and placed her knife to my throat. The steel pricked into my skin as her eyes stared deep into mine. Gray. Her eyes are gray, a color I'd never seen before. I don't know why, but this was the only coherent thought my terrified brain could muster as this strange lady held her blade to my vulnerable neck. Her eyes darted from my left eye to my right and back to my left. Time froze for an eternity. The entire world collapsed into this one moment. She continued to search my face for any sign of defiance and found none. All she saw was my terror. The gray-eyed girl took one last look, shut her eyes, drew in a long breath, and asked, "What's your name?" "M. Mephistopheles," I stammered. "All right, MEM dash. Okay, I'm not even gonna try to fucking pronounce that. Just come on." The gray-eyed girl sheathed her knife in one deft motion. I'm Desdemona. Call me Des. And nice to meet you, Des. I managed to say through chattering teeth. Let's get you out of here. Come on, Des said with a wave of her leather-gloved hand. Get me out? What do you mean? This is my home. An odd expression crossed Des's face. Was it pity? Trust me, you're much better off. Almost anywhere else, she said with genuine compassion. I can't leave. I'll get in trouble. I protested. Des rolled her eyes and heaved an exasperated sigh. Do you really want to stay here? She waved her arm out across my bedroom, noting the white blankets on the bed, the white-tiled floor, and the white clothes hanging in the closet. Even now, I'm not sure I could adequately explain what made me go with her. Maybe I had always sensed the evil in what happened under this roof. Maybe I had always been curious about what was outside the facility. Or maybe I was simply thrown off by how differently she dressed and acted compared to Daddy or any of the guards. For whatever reason, I stood on my shaking feet and gave Des an affirming nod. Satisfied, Des turned and strode confidently out the door and into the hall. I followed with uncertainty as she continued down the hall without waiting for me. By the time we reached the end of the hall, the alarm had stopped and there were no signs of any guards. A red light continued to fill the air. Where's everyone? I asked. There are usually guards walking through here no matter what time it is. Don't worry about it, Des said without looking back. They should be plenty distracted on the west end of the compound. I stirred up quite a ruckus when I got here. Des continued down the next hall and crouched next to a vent by the floor. For a moment I hesitated to follow her into the duct. In movies, the air ducts are always spotless and shiny with plenty of room for multiple people to crawl through. That was not the case here. The flimsy, metal walls were covered in a thick layer of dust and dirt which soiled my white cotton clothes as soon as I touched them. Thunderous sounds echoed through the narrow shaft with every slight movement we made. There was just enough room for my head and horns when I turned my head sideways, which made it look like Des was crawling on the wall, with the soles of her boots only inches from my face. We shimmied along for several cramped, painful minutes, and I fought the urge to sneeze. When I emerged from the duct, Des held out her hand and helped me up. Daddy would be so mad if he saw me like this. He hates it when things look dirty. My clothes and every inch of exposed skin was streaked with black and gray. I'm sure my face was a sight to behold. I've read about stars before, but nothing prepared me for seeing them like this. This canvas of shimmering stars scattered like diamonds across a velvet expanse. Each star twinkled with its own gentle light. Tiny pinpricks in the darkness created a mesmerizing glow. The air, faintly chilly, made the moment feel even more vivid. It was as if the universe paused to showcase its grandeur. I stood there with my mouth agape, staring up at the heavens. I didn't even think to dust myself off from my trek through the vents. It was as if someone splattered glowing paint across an inky black canvas, creating a dazzling array of twinkling dots and clusters in various sizes and brightness, some barely visible and others fiercely shining. The moon waxed and glowed a brilliant silver with a comforting presence. Hey! Des snapped her fingers by my ear and jolted me out of my reverie. We need to get going. That distraction won't keep the guards occupied forever. Without any trace of fear or hesitation, Des slid down the edge of the roof and dropped to the ground below, rolling to land in a crouch. She turned and said, "Jump. I'll catch you." I tried my best to mimic the fluid ease with which she handled the drop, but my foot slipped, and I fell hard to the ground, the air knocked forcefully out of my lungs. Des rushed over to where I lay, struggling to catch my breath. "Wow! Are you okay? A fall from that height actually could have killed you," she said as she crouched next to me. Eventually, my lungs worked again, and I took a deep breath, trying to make up for the time I hadn't been breathing. Des clapped me on my shoulder. "Damn, you must be tough to have not even a scratch on you," she said. "Come on, let's go. The way out is up that tree and over the fence." I painfully struggled to my feet and tried to keep up with Des's quick, confident strides. When we reached the base of the tree, Des scrambled up it like the monkeys I had read about in Daddy's books. She hooked her legs over the lowest branch and dangled upside down, A grin formed on her face. Following her instructions, I jumped up and grabbed her outstretched arms, which nearly lifted me halfway up the tree. Her strength and agility were impressive. We reached the branch that overhung the fence, which emitted a faint buzzing sound. Be careful not to touch the fence. It's packing enough power to fry your tits off. She chuckled. Is that why it's buzzing? I asked. Buzzing? I don't hear any buzzing, Des said, cocking her head to listen. This time, all you have to do is drop straight down like you did before, and I'll for sure catch you this time. Terrified, I gripped the branch with both my arms and legs, pressing my chest against the rough bark. Des offered a few words of encouragement, and I slowly eased my way down until I hung from the branch by my hands. Eventually, I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and let go.